You are listening to Coast to Coast Film Reviews with Raj and David. Let's talk movies.
Hey guys, welcome back to Coast Film Reviews. I'm Raj, and thanks to an unfortunate employment decision made by our previous CEO, here's David.
Hello, everybody.
We're working on this.
Yes. Damn CEO.
He's gonna can't do anything now. He's already made his final decisions.
Yeah, it was the same CEO that McDonald's had. He was sleeping with the help.
Oh, current events.
I just go to work and try to take care of my family, and sometimes I get caught up in all that and get really deep into it. And other times I was like, I just need a break. I'm gonna walk away. It just the news cycle's too much for me sometimes.
The news, man. We all need a news break. If everybody just shut off the news for like an hour a day, when like whatever prime time that comes on, like what would it do to their ratings? Would they just crash and just fall off the face of the earth? Like what would happen to them? They would just like, oh, they lost.
Yeah, just watch 824 movies and get away from the news.
We should ask them if they would pay us to be a sponsor because of your extreme love for them.
Yeah, they could just give me the movies.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so forget
just
the whole podcast. All right. So what do we have today? Today we have a special list. We have two top 5 lists. We're doing top 5 Korean horror movies. My top 5 and David's top 5.
No, I don't even think we necessarily said horror, just Korean movies in general. But Koreans are best known for horror. At least the cinema that makes it over here.
I don't think I've seen any Korean movies that are not horror, so I guess...
Well, I think the top of our list, there'd be a good argument that, at least the top, you already know what my number one is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say it yet, but that's, is that a horror, so...
Sure, that's true, yeah, I'll give you that. That would be more like a twisty something, right? What do you say?
Yeah, I'll have two of mine that won't be conventional horror.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think 1, 2, 3 of mine really aren't horror. So yeah, okay.
It just depends on how broad your view of horror is. Sure.
Yeah, that's true. And for more information on that, please check out our YouTube clip where we discuss what is horror. Our own plugins.
And if I'm an expert on anything, it's my own opinion.
That's a good one. We're going to use that.
So you want to start off or you want me to go first?
Please do the honor of starting us off with your 5.
Okay, my first one is going to be kind of a strange pick because it's part of an anthology which is called Three Extremes, which is 3 short films from Southeast Asia. One is Korean, one is Chinese, and one is Japanese. Well, Hong Kong. I don't... Is it politically correct? Do I call it from Hong Kong or do I call it Chinese?
Current events, man. Now we're getting back into the news. I thought we left the news and now we're...
So just be safe, say it's from Hong Kong, right?
Yeah, I'd say Hong Kong. Yeah.
Okay. But out of in Three Extremes, there is a segment called Cut, which I just love. It is about film. It's based around a director who it's a home invasion, and the guy who is holding him and his wife hostage is an extra in his films. He was in a bunch of his films.
Okay.
And it plays almost like kind of like a class structure. This extra, the director doesn't even know who the hell he is, even though they've worked together, been on the same sets. So it plays off of that class structure. It's probably about a half hour, 40 minutes long, but it's just really, really good, really, really tight, short film, and I definitely recommend people check out the whole film. Also, part of that is Dumplings, which a lot more people know because
That
that's
I've heard of that one. I think I saw that one.
they made a full length of Dumplings, but the original was a short film that was part of this series. But yeah, check it out, Three Extremes.
So this is cut part of the Three Extremes series, and
Yes, I
cut
believe
was
it's the
one
middle.
segment of it.
Yeah, I believe it's the middle. I could be wrong, but it's a really good film.
Okay, I know I've heard of the Three Extremes. I think you mentioned it before, maybe in one of our extreme horror clips, also found on YouTube. It
I think we might
was,
have a little discussion about anthologies or something like that in a group,
yeah. I
and
remember
and
you
that's what I like.
somewhere you mentioned, and I was like, oh yeah, I did see that. Okay, my five. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe this was Korean. I didn't research it. I just remembered it, and I was like, oh yeah, that was a Korean movie. Could be wrong. Chaser. Did you see that one?
I have not seen Chaser, but I'm pretty sure that is a Korean movie.
I'm gonna run with it and say it is. If anybody calls me out on it, that's perfectly fine.
People
Some of
did
these,
say people did mention that in our group. So
I think somebody did, and I hit like. I always hit like on the ones I like, and I hit like on everybody's. I think anyway, back to that Chaser. Uh, I think some of these ones on my list have that same actor, and if you know who he is, let me know because I think he's in. I think he might be. Anyway, we'll get to that because I'm about to mention a different movie. Chaser is about this. There's a missing woman, and I think she's a prostitute. And there are two people looking for her. I believe there's a detective, and also her pimp are looking for her at the same time. And they're sort of following the same clues or following different clues and kind of finding the same path. And so they're on the same track, but obviously sort of for different reasons. Um, and it's she's being held captive by a serial killer, I believe, or at least some kind of murderer. But I thought the pacing was really good. It was probably the second Korean movie that I've seen, so I was just really just like wow, the production quality and like the acting was really good. And I'm used to reading subtitles anyway with Hindi movies that I watch, so it wasn't anything new to experience a different language in that way. But I really enjoyed it, and for that was my, like I said, my second movie in Korean movies. So I was like, oh, I didn't. You just don't know until you start trying out movies what countries have like these bigger kind of movie industries. And I just, I was like, oh, American movies, Hindi movies, and I was like, oh well, let me try this one because someone told me about it. I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, Chaser was my number five.
well, I'm gonna go to my number 4.
Mm-hmm.
This one is called Bloody Reunion. You probably can also find it under the title "To Sir with Love," not like the Sir Laurence Olivier film. I think there is one, but this is kind of your classic slasher. It is it's called Bloody Reunion because it's a small school reunion, and all these students go back to meet with this teacher who is now older and ill. But they all just really hate this teacher.
Oh.
They kind of play it off like they love her and this or that, but they each have their secrets from the past. But it just turns out being this crazy slasher, and there's some pretty inventive kills.
Oh.
And this is one that I've never really seen too many people talk about it. And me and you talked about it. I found this in like a little weird video store that was part of a flea market. And a dude's like, man, check this out, man. I really like this. And I'm like, it was like $10 for actual DVD, which was cheap, especially for buying foreign DVDs at that time. And I bought it, and I really like it. I still have it in DVD. I haven't upgraded to Blu-ray yet, but it's just a really good slasher. And that was probably one of my, besides my number one of my earlier Korean films I owned and just really fell in love with.
Yeah, those weird video clerks, they know the shit, man. Sometimes like they'll give you these weird recommendations. I forget. I remember one time there was a guy who recommended some flick to me, and it was a real bomb. It was a piece of crap, but I was like, yeah, there's something. There's something. This guy, he knows something. But that movie he recommended, no. So that story in and of itself really didn't prove the point I was trying to make, but there was something about him.
Someone liked the movie.
Yeah, someone he did. He loved it, I guess. My number 4 is Mercy. Have you heard of it?
I'm liking this list. Things I haven't seen.
Yeah. Mercy, I don't, you know what? I should have found out the years for these movies, but Mercy is about this guy. I believe he's a pathologist. He's a coroner, and through investigating the death of this girl, he gets caught up in the investigation by the killer, and the killer is making all these demands because of his connections with the police and law enforcement in general. He wants him to do things for him and get him to do things, and he makes threats and things like that. And it was pretty gripping. Like, I loved it the whole way through. And I think most of these Korean movies had some kind of twist or something, like just kept coming. And just when you think like it's, oh, that's the common trope, or oh, I've seen this cliche before, like it got me, and I was just like, whoa, what? I just thought I saw it all, kind of thing. And these movies in particular, I remember there was something throughout the movie that was just like, oh, what? Like that, I didn't see it. Like I just wasn't paying attention. Maybe because these were like my first Korean movies, so I didn't really expect them to be up to, as insulting as this may sound to people who are bigger Korean movie fans than I am, but I didn't feel that they were up to par at the time for the American movies that I loved all those years. But yeah,
I've noticed a thread in a lot of Korean films. It seems, and it's not that I've seen hundreds of Korean films, just from what my experience is. They deal a lot with past coming back to haunt you. It seems to be a theme in a lot of Korean films I really enjoy, and a lot of ones I've seen. So that seems to, I don't know if that is,
I think that's like a cultural thing.
A cultural thing, or just that they really like their art and stuff to be based on that, or if it's just I haven't seen enough. But yeah, I've noticed a lot in the Korean films that the past coming back to haunt you is a pretty big theme. Just like the one I just talked about, Bloody Reunion. Right. It's all about the past coming back up later in life. So we're going to go to my number 3.
Oh yes, your 3.
And this one we had a little discussion over, because it's kind of like a mutt of a film, because there's so many different countries involved. It is a Korean director.
Right.
Financed in Korea, but it's Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
Which I'm a huge fan of Snowpiercer. It's kind of a divisive film. I know a lot of people out there just hate it, but it's just such a good film.
And you love Chris Evans.
Oh yeah, he's awesome. But anybody who hasn't seen Snowpiercer, it's another kind of class battle where it's post-apocalyptic, and it's just, there's a train that has a perpetual engine that just keeps on going, and all the poor people are at the back of the train. And as you get further along in the train, you go further up the economic ladder. But the poor people I don't want to give away what they're eating, but they're not eating things that any of us would like to eat.
Sure.
But they're pretty much powering everything, and it's the government's not taking care of their people. And right. It's a revolutionary story of how the poor, underprivileged moved to the front of the train.
Yeah, that when I saw that movie, I felt like I was watching a remake of something, first of all, because just something about the directing or the story, I was like, it's good, but I was like, this doesn't feel American. And it was only later on that I found out, I was like, oh, it was a Korean director, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. So that's why it has a different feel to it. Even the ending, I was just like, oh, okay. It's like, yeah, I don't think I've seen American movies end in such a way. So I was just like, oh, that's interesting. It's like that's awkward and unsettling, or like I forget the exact feeling, but yeah, it was a surprise.
And I think our top two might even be the same. We'll see what your three is first.
I mean, I think I said that one out loud. I said one of them out loud, and the other one I think we already know. So my top three is from, oh, here, I'll just do the year this time, 2016. It's called Missing.
Missing. I have not seen that one.
Oh, nice. Good. I like finding movies that you haven't seen. 'Cause then I feel like the smart one for a while. So, Missing was, I think this might be the first Korean movie I saw. And I saw it on, I think it was by accident. I was just flipping through channels, and it already started within like the first 10 minutes, but you won't miss anything if you get that far in. It starts off just about a girl and a guy who are going out to the country, I guess just as a visit to live in the country for some time, kind of like a resort thing, but it's just them in like a private setting, and something takes place there, and she goes missing. And her sister, the story is about her sister going to search for her. And man, that movie stuck with me for a while, and I think that's what spurred my interest in Korean movies, and which led me to my number two movie in my list. But it was good. Again, this is another one with a bit of a twist. It was a little graphic, which, well, I mean, another reason that I liked it, because foreign movies don't tend to shy away from the sort of graphic nature. And I don't always mean gory. Like sometimes it's just the acting, or just the behavior, or I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes when I talk about graphic in my horror, it's just the intensity of feeling that I get from the actors, or the acting, or the storytelling, that's so intriguing, more so than, whoa, it's a bloody stump. Whoa, like, or, like, oh, I got stabbed in the face. Like, good special effects are always appreciated, but there's something else to the graphic nature of a movie that I appreciate, and this one was really good. I really love it, and I still think about the twisty twists of it. So yeah, you should check that one out if you haven't seen it.
Well, my number two, which is probably in the top 10 favorite films of the decade.
Your top 10 of the decade? Or
Yes, probably
everyone's
of mine. If I was to make the top 10 of a decade, this would definitely be top 20. But I have a really good feeling if I sat down, it'd be top 10. But I Saw the Devil.
Yes.
It is just such an amazingly brutal, dark film, but still has a little bit of comedy in there. It's a serial killer film.
Yeah.
I guess some people would lump it into horror. It's definitely horror adjacent, as the kids say nowadays.
That's
horror
a new
fans.
term. I never heard that.
Horror fans would appreciate it, but even though it's not necessarily a horror, but it's about, I guess it would be the Korean equivalent to an FBI agent. Or I think he might be Secret Service. I haven't seen the movie in a while, and I definitely need to see it again.
I want to say you're right. I think he is an agent, a special agent.
He's definitely a federal agent type police force. And his wife gets kidnapped and killed by this serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
And it just starts this intense cat and mouse game.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about the film is, by the end of it, you don't know who the true villain Sicko is.
Right.
And it's just so brutal and dark, but it's just beautifully shot. The score is amazing. It's just one of my favorite foreign language films ever. It's just that good.
You stole my top two. That was my two. That's why I was like, yep, the second you said it. Yeah, that was also coincidentally my second Korean movie ever. So when I saw that, I was like, holy crap, like this again, like the production quality, the acting quality. I was like, holy cow, like how long have I been missing out on Korean movies? It was so good. It was so gripping and like I said, the acting and I think again, it's that same guy. Who was
It's a,
the
a Choi Min Sink, and I remember when before this movie came out, and I was just following it, just reading about it. It was one of those movies I was so pumped up to see,
mm,
and it just so many times I'm let down by just being super excited to see something, and this movie delivered plus. But it's Cho
yeah.
Min Sink, the same guy who stars in our number one film.
Oh, don't be trying to read my mind. Yeah, but you're right.
If it was made in Hollywood, you couldn't have gotten better production. It's
Yeah.
just that good. It doesn't seem like this is made in foreign country that's second rate,
Yeah,
compared to
exactly.
what we make here. It's if they made this, and I'm surprised they haven't remade this in English. I'm really surprised, and it will be. I guarantee within 10 years they'll remake this movie in English and fuck it up.
Yeah.
But it's that good.
Yeah, yeah. It's not like those movies. Like sometimes when you recommend movies, you're like, well, you got to remember this is in the 70s, or when you have to recommend foreign movies, like just you have to remember like this is their culture, and this like you really don't have to explain anything. It's westernized enough. I mean, maybe that's maybe that's crapping on another another culture's Hollywood, or do they have a name for their movie industry?
Sollywood?
Is it
No, I don't know.
so it's Sollywood from now on. So maybe it's crapping on Sollywood, but if you were going from like a mainly American movie, being a fan of that, this would be a great transition to start appreciating foreign movies if you're interested in starting with Korean. I saw The Devil was an amazing transition. When I saw it, I was just like, man, I'm sold. Like Missing was a great intro to it for me, but I saw The Devil just sold me. I was like, man, I want more. And then I found out that people are already crazy about Korean pop and all this, like all these boy band groups. I was like, where did K-pop? I think that was around the time I discovered all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, obviously we both have the same number one film, and people who don't, yeah, I might have to question them. But this film, at times, I've said is my favorite film ever made. It's definitely in probably top three, top five, depending on what kind of mood I am in at the time.
Were you
Uh,
about to steal my top one after you took my top two?
no, I'll let you
Like
announce it. But
top two. Oh no. It was my mistake. I got my count wrong. So technically, my top two was the same.
yeah, we both
So
had the same two.
yeah, so it is yours. All right, go ahead, take it
I'll
away.
let you announce it.
Okay, tell me when you're ready. I'll announce it when you're ready. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Okay, it's Oldboy.
Which is just such an incredible film.
It was pretty good.
Pretty
Do you
good.
see what I did? See what I did? Did you notice I did it again?
Now it's so
You
good that Spike Lee fucked it up.
you blow it up over the over the wall, and I'm just like, whatever. It's good. It was real good.
Yeah, it's good for a Korean film.
If that's the best they got, it's pretty good. No, it's damn awesome. So awesome that I'm afraid to experience it a second time in full. Just because that's how I am with movies that are so hard hitting or they make me feel a lot. It's hard for me to like maybe scenes I've seen now and then. Like I think I've seen the fight scene again, just because I really love the choreography of that fight scene. You know which one I'm talking about, right?
Oh
With
yeah, yeah. The
the
one
hammer.
take,
Yeah,
no
that's right.
cuts.
Yeah, that one's awesome. Like, so it's hard for me to see like a really good film more than once, unless I'm experiencing with someone else. Like, I was like, oh, you got to watch this. I'll watch it with you. That's different. But for me to go see it again, like, I have to be ready. It has to be a while before I see it again for me to want to. So I appreciate it all over again. Otherwise, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm not that kind of like film fan that where I'm just like, oh, what did I miss? I want to see this part again. Or, I don't like doing that.
If you have not seen Oldboy, you should do it right now. I've actually done a podcast before on this movie. We did an hour and a half just talking about the symbolism and stuff behind this movie. It's just so deep. And if you've only seen it once, you should see it again because there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff just from the symbolic point of view that you probably miss. I mean, I've probably seen it 30 times, and I'm not even joking, and I'll still catch little things.
This show has been brought to you by Jim Bob's Fish Fry, where our motto is you catch it, we fry it. You eat it, don't like it, who cares? So come on down to Jim Bob's Fish Fry tonight with your family. That is a real place that opened up just down the block. Real good guy, real crappy fish.
Yeah. Does he wear one of those red hats though, Jim Bob?
Yeah, he does.
Jim Bob had one of those red hats.
He refused to wear the fishnet hat. The fishnet hairnet cap. What is it called?
The fishnet. Talking about a hairnet.
Hairnet.
If Jim Bob's wearing fishnets, we have a whole different problem.
Hey, listen. If Jim Bob wants to wear a fishnet, okay, who are we to judge?
You are in LA, so finding a guy named Jim Bob with fishnets is definitely a huge possibility.
He's real. Okay, that's all I gotta say. Shoot me a movie that you liked, that you saw. Well, not liked, but what did you see? What have you seen this week?
My favorite movie this week is The Nightingale.
Is it The Nightingale or is it just Nightingale?
The Nightingale. It's gone into my top 10 of the year.
Oh, of the year. Okay.
Directed by Jennifer Kent, who did The Babadook.
Oh, right. You said that.
Which I really like The Babadook.
I like the symbolism in that.
Yeah, it's done really well. You hear a lot about the women in horror, and I'm the type of person, I don't care who directs the film. I don't care what country they come from, sexual orientation, their gender. I don't really care about any of that. But I don't think there's enough women directing film. And I think, unfortunately, some of the ones that kind of are forced upon us that we're supposed to respect and everything, they're not that good. It's so when there's a woman that's out there making her own films and just doing an amazing job, it just makes me feel really good to see that. And she's doing her own thing. She is fearless in what she will put on film. And The Nightingale, I'm putting her up there with, I think I said in the Facebook group, we have Ari Aster, we have Robert Eggers, who both just did their second film, and I love all four of those films. Jennifer Kent has to be in that same conversation. It's just up-and-coming filmmaker that is just amazing.
Did you say she's an American filmmaker?
No, she's Australian.
Australian. Oh, okay.
So if you remember, Babadook was Australian. This one is Australian, but it takes place in Tasmania, which that's part of New Zealand, if I'm correct. Is Tasmania? Is that New Zealand? Do you know?
I thought it was its own island. I could be wrong.
But they're all close.
I believe it is home to the Tasmanian devil.
Yes. Yeah. The duck-billed platypus.
The duck. Oh, exclusively to that island?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I was like, well, I didn't know that.
But it's a period piece that is set in the early 1800s when you have British rule, when Australia and the surrounding areas are still a penal colony. And it's just about the main actress who has been kind of kept on as an inmate, even though she did all these things for her captors who were military leaders. And there's a huge moment in this film, and I don't want to give it away. I wish you saw it
Mm,
because it's just so sickeningly brutal. Without even being very graphic, a lot of it's
okay.
implied. She goes crazy. She's
Okay.
crazy, and it goes from there. It's a pretty
Okay.
basic plot, but the way that it's done, it's beautiful. Um, they also have a couple Aboriginal actors, and you see a lot of the class struggle. That even though the main actress is on the lower tier with the white folks, she still sees this Aboriginal guy who ends up being a guide for her as
Mm,
lower than her. But you see that their relationship changes as they both realize they hate these white British people because the main actress is Irish. So she already has a disdain for the British. But it's just an amazing film. The biggest flaw, I think it might have been a little bit too long. I think they could have trimmed a little bit of the fat off of it.
were they
But
trying to be a little artsy with it, extending it a little bit longer than they needed to be?
I don't have a problem with that. Just sometimes some of the scenes seemed a little bit redundant.
Mm.
So you could have trimmed down some of that and totally got the same artistic vision
It wasn't
across.
like the redundancy, you didn't see like a real reason for it. Like it was just overdone.
Yeah, it was just a little too much.
Okay.
Just a little too much. I think it could have been edited a little bit better. But I loved it, and it was a really good film, and I really suggest you checking it out.
Oh yeah, I was already sold when you said you liked it.
I wouldn't really call this a horror. I think they call it a period thriller, which a
Hmm.
woman making a period thriller like
Uh,
that
uh,
doesn't sound good. I don't like you calling it that.
that's punny.
Sexist Wikipedia, but
Sure, blame it on Wikipedia. Anybody
um,
can edit that. I'm gonna go check who typed in period thriller in there.
it definitely has some horrific stuff going on, but
Sure.
it's not a horror film. It's definitely a thriller.
Sounds more like I feel there should be a genre like this, like a survivor revenge thing or something, but maybe that's almost too revealing of certain plot points to be named that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of survivalism because they're out in the jungle pretty much the whole time. A good amount of the runtime, so
I see.
it's very unhospitable terrain that they're on. I think I gave it an 8.
Ooh, an 8. I'm gonna throw in a little bit of a lighter movie in the mix. This is from the week before. I saw Maleficent 2 with my family. I wasn't expecting much. This is starring Angelina Jolie and Michelle Pfeiffer, and I don't remember that girl's name who plays Aurora. But I wasn't expecting very much. But the acting was decent. I enjoyed it. The story was okay. The action was whatever. The ending was sort of reminiscent of a particular scene from Game of Thrones. If you are a fan of Game of Thrones, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. I liked Angelina Jolie's acting, and the dialogue between her and Michelle Pfeiffer was just timeless. It was so it was so good. Like I was just like, oh, like just like you could feel it, the anger between them. It was pretty good. Other than that, I mean, is all in all, it was a Disney movie.
I
It
heard it was
was,
kind of dark for a Disney movie, though.
yeah, yeah. I mean, so the implications of what was occurring was atypical for the kind of Disney movie you would expect, but at the same time they dialed it back when it came to like the more graphic, how graphic it could have been. So like for example, like attacks would be more of like a like a glitter explosion or like a powder boof and that person's dead instead of like like stabbed through the heart and like bloody death. So things were dialed back like that, but the implications were life and death in essence. So it was, like I said, it was better than I thought it was going to be. The kids enjoyed it. I would recommend it. It was a fun watch.
Yeah, definitely. My daughter will probably get me to get that on Blu-ray or something for her. But I actually had a really good week in film. I'm gonna give you my low point of the week,
Oh no.
and that was The Beach Bum.
Oh yeah, you said that.
That was it's directed by Harmony Korine, who um, pretty big name in like the art film world. Star Matthew McConaughey, Snoop Dogg, uh, Martin Lawrence is in it, Jonah Hill's in it, Zac Efron,
Are most of them cameos?
Jimmy Buffett, Jonah
Jimmy
Hill.
Buffett.
It's such a ragtag, like it's just a bunch of scenes almost. There's no real plot, so I wouldn't even call it like a cameo. I guess it's a stoner comedy, but I didn't really laugh. Martin Lawrence's part was probably the best out of the film, but I didn't like it. It didn't do anything for me. I mean, there's so much better stoner comedy out there. Um, it's just Matthew McConaughey, like just drunk and high, getting high with Snoop Dogg for like 2 hours. There's really no conflict. It's it was so underwhelming. It was so underwhelming. The editing I thought was terrible. Some people like it because he meant to do it this way, and he did it this way on purpose. And I still didn't like it. I think I gave it a 3. It's probably the lowest rating I think I've had for a film since we've started the group.
I have never. Yeah, probably. I mean, the group's not that old. I think I'd remember if you give it 3. I think I remember seeing a 4. Or was that me? I know I gave one of my movies that I'm about to talk about a 4. Redemption Pick, best stoner movie in your opinion?
Half Baked is one of my.
Yes,
it's my favorite comedy ever.
Oh, comedy in general. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was going to say
Half-Baked
definitely
is,
my favorite stoner movie.
I think we haven't talked I put in a group. I think I've seen Half Baked more than any movie in my collection.
Oh, where are we at? We are at. Oh, so me. I saw. I wanted more from this movie. I saw Harriet. And a quick story about how I went to go see it. My wife encouraged me to go to this meetup group. This is not to sponsor meetup, but I tried this group once before, and it was for a writing group, and these guys just would not talk to me. I tried like just crazy just to talk to people, and they just had their own little cliques, and they just want to talk to themselves. So since then, I was like, I never tried meetup again. My wife encouraged me to do it again. This time it was some SoCal group, and I'm not going back, which is why I feel comfortable talking about them. Because if it worked out well, I was like, hey, we got a podcast and stuff, and I was going to talk to them, like maybe even interview them and like play a clip of what they thought on the show and like make them, they were going to be my best friends, basically. But I'm stuck with you. So
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I thought that would excite you. I thought you'd be happy about that. Didn't want you to get jealous. That was the real reason. But so we met for lunch beforehand, and there was a particular guy named John who was part of this 4-person group that, including me, that we were talking about stuff before the movie, and they were shit talking members that are no longer part of the group. And
that's always a good orientation to a group.
Yeah, because it's like, oh great, if I don't make it in this group, I know they could be shit talking about me next. But so he was talking about how they went to a basketball game and they invited this one girl who's a member, and she was a diehard Lakers fan. And he had said something while standing next to her, like, oh, the Lakers aren't doing so good this year. And this is from his words, so it's his opinion about how everything went down. She turned to him and was like, well, the reason is because blah, blah, blah. And he was just like, oh, she was so up in my face about everything. I'm allowed to have my opinion. And so after hearing that before the movie, I was like, oh, these guys seem pretty open-minded. I'm excited to see the movie and talk about it with them. So let's get to the movie. The movie was, the main actress did well. I thought she did well. She was passionate when it was her time to speak, and when it came to those really big moments, and her dialogue was done well. I felt like the editing needed help. There were times when I felt they needed to draw it out a little bit more. I felt when it comes to, this was something I wasn't sure, and I might end up cutting this out if I don't say it properly, but when it comes to black actors, and I'm speaking slowly, so I can definitely cut this out carefully if I need to. But when it comes to black actors getting praised for their performances, I feel like it always ends up being slavery or some racism movie. And I don't feel that's fair. And I feel like this is something I've heard before. And I feel for them, because it's so messed up when these are the only movies that they get recognition for, or they get nominated for, or it's like for a gangster role. I think Denzel was nominated for his role in Training Day or something, and he spoke out about it.
Yeah, but he didn't get Malcolm X, which is such a great movie, and he did it so perfectly.
Right, exactly. So I feel like every year there's always that one slavery movie, and like that's the one that's going to get so many nominations. I'm like, that's like, I have no problem with them doing the movie. Like I think it needs to be thrown in people's faces as, not as often as possible, but I mean, like, it needs to be reminded. That's fine. But I don't like when it's not done well, number one. And number two, when that is the only movie that black people are recognized for, or African Americans are recognized for in the award shows that I don't even care for anymore because of that. One of the reasons. But anyway, back to the movie. Apparently, she has seizures. In the movie, she has these Joan of Arc-like seizures that predict the future, whether it's days in advance or minutes in advance. She has these repetitively, and it gets a bit overdone. And she's almost like, like a Spider-Man, like a superhero. I'm like, whatever, this is getting a bit too much. Like, just stick to the realism of what she went through, what slavery was like, the brutality of it, the inescapable horrors of slavery. Like, that would have been enough for me. That would have been enough of a story to explain the terrible nature of the things that they had to endure during that time. But instead, I felt like they went this dumb, she could see the future, and she claimed that, God was giving her visions. I didn't do much research, but nowhere did I read about that ever being true. But anyway, that was like kind of a plot point for the whole thing. And besides her, the other characters were fairly replaceable, and it was not at all how I thought it was going to be. Even like, I feel like their biggest acting outside of her was the white actors with their racist dialogue. And even then, like, the audience could not help. Well, the audience I was a part of. I mean, like, everyone just couldn't help but talk. Like, and just talk back. I'm like, just shut up. Like, just listen. Like, this is like, people were taking it, because it got to the point where people weren't taking the movie seriously in the audience that I was in. It didn't come off as a serious sort of, you know what I mean? Like an artistic way to go about it. It was just taken as like, oh, haha, he's going to die or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So
yeah, so it just turned into like Hollywood fare instead of telling the real story.
Yes, so that brings me to the point I'm about to make, why I mentioned John. So at the end of the movie, also, just one more thing that irritated me about this movie. There was, I forgot to mention. So, do you know the typical scenes whenever there's a slavery movie, there's that typical scene where they pull off their shirt and you see their back and the lashes, you know, the scars and stuff. Like, that was at least done twice. And there was nowhere in the movie where they showed, and it makes me sound, I feel bad saying this, but there wasn't shown enough. That kind of brutality, like, I felt like it was a lot more verbal, and it was not a lot of display, because that's the reality of it. It's not that I want to see the horrific acts, but I want to feel enough for this actress to play the part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to feel enough for this actress's journey through the movie if I don't feel that rage that she does. Like, I get it, because I've seen enough slavery movies and enough of this kind of stuff, but it's this movie that's supposed to make me feel that way, not my experience with all these other movies. So I feel they let me down there.
Like if that's like a 13-year-old's first view into slavery,
Exactly.
it would make it seem a lot less terrible than what it was.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. So, and then the other thing was at the end of the movie, during the credits, they had these sepia pictures going up. And I was like, oh, wow, they got some historical pictures of slaves back then. And I'm just like really intently watching. As I'm watching, I see this character and I'm like, oh, wow, they even found an actor who looks just like that guy. And then I'm like, then the next picture comes up, and I was like, hold on. These are just cast pictures. And I felt like an absolute idiot. First of all, why should I give a damn about the cast pretending to be in these old pictures? That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Why not go back into the books and look for historical pictures of like actual pictures?
Yeah, it's a montage of actual history.
Like it's like almost insulting. I was like, what are you like? Are you just hoping people don't notice? Like it felt stupid to me. So anyway, I left the theater short of finishing the credits, but everyone else in the group had to watch the credits, I guess. So I was waiting for them. I met up with those three from the group, and John spoke up, and he's like, "Oh yeah, so Raj, what did you think?" I wanted to summarize it in like the best sentence I could. So I was going to say, it felt very mainstream, but I still liked it. And John heard about a portion of that. I got to the point where I said it felt a little mainstream, and there's people walking around, and this guy, like, he's at the top of his voice, and he's like, "Oh, you're a film snob, snob, snob," and I was just like, what? Like, I just stopped what I was saying. And he goes and he's like, "Oh, it can be mainstream and still be artistic, and you can still love all these things separately." And I was like, I didn't even get to say anything about it. Like, I just said, this was the guy who said that, oh, he's allowed to have his own opinion. So I was like, oh, well, this is the guy who's going to understand what I'm about to say, and he's going to appreciate something I say. So I was like, I was going to say that, but I just let him keep talking. He kept going for like another 15, 20 seconds about why it should be appreciated and how wonderful it was. And after he stops, I'm like, oh, hey, John, it's okay if you have a different opinion than me. And I looked at him like and paused, and he didn't say anything. I was like, whatever. Like, you a-hole. Yeah. And some older lady that was in the group came out. I was still standing there, and John just finished his rant. She came out and she was like, "What did you guys think of the movie?" And then John immediately turned to her with his hands in his pocket, like sure as sunshine. He's just like, "It was wonderful. It was a masterpiece. I mean, she was just great." And I was like, "Oh, gross. I'm about to barf on all of you." Like, this
Masterpiece.
I was like, are you trying to impress somebody else? Like, I don't know. Anyway, I
Oh
was just like,
God.
I'm done with this group.
Yeah,
And like,
you don't throw masterpiece around.
I don't know. He was talking about earlier. Anyway, I don't want to talk about John anymore. That's ruining my night. Um, but when I said that his dog had an operation in the morning, just quick bit about him. His dog had an operation in the morning. So when I left, I said, "Oh, good luck with your dog." I meant it sincerely. I wasn't like, "Oh, good luck with your dog." I was like, "Oh, good luck with your dog, John." And he responds, he's like, "Yeah, my name's John." And I was like, "What?" I stopped for a second, and I was like, "It's like, okay." And I just smiled and I left. I was like, I don't even care.
Could
So
you ever
long,
consider
John.
John maybe was just hard of hearing?
I don't know what he heard about my review then. And now I'm wondering, maybe John and I just got off on the wrong foot, David. He could have been
Oh,
our third wheel.
fucking John.
You know what? F you, John.
All right, well, and a film to kind of keep in the same theme of racial injustice, or
Hmm.
issues with race. I saw Skin this week,
Oh, yeah.
which is another A24 film.
Oh, boy.
It it is about a skinhead who's very deeply entrenched in the cause. Um, he's high up in a little kind of a familiar group, um, but he has a change of heart. He falls in love and wants to get away. Starts seeing the errors in his ways. The group is starting to become more violent and getting to the point of killing people. And he decides to get out, but the group doesn't want to let him go. And it's based off of a true story. It reminds me a lot of. Have you ever seen American History X?
Oh yeah.
Which I really like that film, but it echoes that film. But this is based off a true story, so I don't really hold that against it. But it was just really well done. The acting was really good. Jamie Bell played the lead character. He hasn't had too many big roles, but if you see him, you've seen him around. He was in Snowpiercer. I didn't mean for that to happen.
Who was he in Snowpiercer? Was he the younger brother or something?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But it's called Skin because the lead character, his whole face is just totally tatted up with skinhead references. So it's even if he can escape, he still has all these tattoos on his face. So in real life, in the film, he starts working with the Southern Poverty Law Center, which they're the ones who track most of the hate groups. So they had a rich investor who basically said, if you kind of turn state evidence against these guys, we're going to pay for all the surgery to get rid of the tattoos. So it's pretty remarkable story. There's definitely some flaws in the film. I don't believe they really show his change of heart. I think it should have been a little bit more dramatic. He just kind of falls in love, and then he's like, yeah, I'm not, there is some dramatic parts, like something they want him to do, he doesn't want to do. But I think they should have showed more of him struggling with, I'm finding love, I'm changing my ways. And it seems not to really hit that point too hard. Falling in love can make you do a lot of stuff, but I would like to see them more focusing on his inner turmoil. It really focuses on how these groups, find poor, underprivileged kids and kind of use, and they do the same with the Bloods and the Crips, try to show, hey, this brotherhood, this family, we're going to take care of you. And it's these kids who've just never had that. And with the hate groups, they just end up, and ISIS does the same thing, just basically brainwash these people to do whatever because they think it's a love. They're doing it for a cause. So right. I think they did a really good job of showing that dark side of it. Stories like this, I really like huge redemption, arcs for a character. As a society, we're so divisive. Especially with politics nowadays, that we kind of forget that some people we're just, not everybody is just disposable. There's some people who've just been fed so much shit, and the people around them have really kind of formed them that we write them off. And there's a lot of people out there that are redeemable, even though that they seem like monsters. And I think it just shows that, like, if you met this guy in the street, you'd be like, that's one of the worst human beings in the world. But, if you can get somebody's moral compass to change and point in the right direction, have some good influences around them, people can change. So I really like when a story can show that.
What did you end up rating it?
I think I gave it a 7.5, somewhere along those lines.
Yeah, what's another one you saw?
I watched The Wind.
Oh yeah.
Which was supernatural, Western horror kind of mashup. Another first-time female director, Emma Tammy. Yeah, I did a lot of female helmed movies this week.
You're like a progressive fellow.
I'm progressive. Yeah,
like
but
the soup. Oh wait, no, that's Progresso.
That's
Never mind.
Progresso, yeah.
Not like
But this movie, more folk horror-ish, which is like the big thing now, which I love because I love folk horror. Um, but it all takes place. I couldn't even tell you what state it is. It's 1800 frontier days. Like they're in the middle of nowhere. There's no one around. I'm looking now. It's supposed to be New Mexico.
Oh, okay.
And it's just this woman and her husband, another couple move close by. There are only 4 people that are around anywhere. So it's the start of a town, pretty much.
Did you say the time period?
I'm guessing early 1800s,
Okay.
frontier times.
Okay.
Coming down the Oregon Trail.
The typical Kevin Costner time period. Just
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
old.
But it's a slow burn, and it's really well acted. Not enough went on for me. They're really beautiful to watch. The camera works really good. I can see that there is some immense talent in this director. I just feel the script might have been a little bit weak. You don't know if the lead character is insane, if this supernatural stuff is going on. There's a lot to do with jealousy with this new couple. She thinks the wife is into her husband. She goes insane and starts telling the other woman all this stuff. So you're just not too sure if it's really supernatural things going on or if it's just this woman losing grip with reality. But jealousy plays a huge part of it. But it's worth a watch. I really liked the artistic side of it. I really liked the technical side of it. Just the story was a little lacking. I think I gave it a 7. Which to me,
that was higher than I was expecting.
A 7's a good grade. And if the script was a little stronger, it'd be a much better movie. But it's definitely worth checking out. I do recommend it.
I feel when you said it, and I guess that when you said it was a Western, I feel like I did see it on my list. I want to say I did see it, but when you started telling the story, I was like, no, that's not what I remember reading that it was about.
The poster's absolutely beautiful. If you look up the poster of the movie,
is it her with a shotgun in her doorway?
Yes, and you see, she sees a shadow of an entity mainly, and you kind of see its hands coming around the doorway. So it's just a beautiful photograph.
Then maybe it is the one.
That's how the movie's shot. Is it just looks beautiful, and, nice barren landscape. That's just a beautiful landscape, and so it's just very pretty to look at. But it's just a little too superficial.
I saw Terminator Dark Fate. You are not a fan of the series anyway, you said, right? You don't.
I like the first 2 films.
Oh, okay. The original 2, right? Judgment Day
and the second film is okay. I love the original Terminator, but after that it was all downhill.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of Rise of the Machines. And then I didn't see Salvation, but from what I remember reading, that it's not canon. Anyway, I saw Terminator Dark Fate. It was not bad. I didn't. Story short, I don't want to say what happens in the beginning, but anyway, there is a new person to protect, essentially. She is a Mexican national. It is a female. If you haven't seen the poster or haven't seen the trailer, then it's going to be a huge surprise. But Sarah Connor comes back to reprise her role as Sarah Connor, because I forgot the actress's real name, so that didn't make sense. Linda Hamilton, formerly James Cameron's wife, correct? My wife told me that it was James Cameron actually was married to her and then remarried. Oh man, who to the lady? Oh, to the actress who played the granddaughter in Titanic. Do you recall?
No, I've
The
never
one.
seen Titanic. I stayed away from
Don't
it.
lie, okay? You were a big fan. You loved it. You cried, and the old lady drowned with the jewel. That friggin' liar. They were looking for that, and she's like, I don't know where it is. I don't know. I lost it. And then she throws it in the end. You piece of. We're looking all over for that. Enough about James Cameron's marriages. So they're protecting this new person, and Linda Hamilton shows up and she helps out. And they don't send a Terminator back this time. This time they sent an augmented human that's played by that short short-haired blonde girl. I didn't like her as a character. She was pretty one-off. Didn't really care. The best part of the movie was, I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger was pretty good, but the best aspect of the movie was Sarah Connor and Arnold Schwarzenegger's relationship in terms of like how they got along or didn't get along in the movie. That was the most interesting part of it, and it certainly doesn't start right away because they only meet up with him. Oh, surprise, surprise! When they do, it's like so obvious who they're going to go see. But it's kind of touching, and I got teary eyed at the end, not because of the send off, but just like how it ended, or like just the emotion behind it. It was a little heartfelt. I mean, I like that part. It was fairly predictable. When they talk about, I don't know if I mentioned this in Gemini Man, but towards the beginning of the movie, he kills a bee and says like, "Oh, I hate bees." And then you start to like, I wonder why he hates bees. And then later on, we find out he's allergic to bee venom, and like the duplicate, the doppelganger, uses it against him. We're like, oh, how did you know? Like, oh, because he's also allergic to bees and whatever bullshit. I'm like, well, like they just have to throw it in your face. Like, I hate that. Anyway, the bee venom is something else. I won't give that away, I guess. But she throws it in our faces, and then later on it's like, oh, but how do we kill him? Oh, I wonder what are we gonna use. So it's a little different. It's definitely a woman and women empowerment type of movie because you have Linda Hamilton, you have the new quote unquote Terminator, which is actually a human augmented, that's second female, and then you have the new savior. So those three really trio up against Arnold Schwarzenegger's name and really trash him. And just to be clear, this isn't the Judgment 2 Terminator, because that one was the one reprogrammed by John from the future, if you recall that. That was the reprogrammed one that he sent back to protect himself.
Now my head's just hurting.
You're thinking too much. That's it. Just don't. So in the first one, Arnold Schwarzenegger comes back, tries to kill her. It doesn't succeed, obviously, because there's a sequel. And then John sends back the exact same looking one, because that's a good idea, reprogrammed to protect himself from dying. Okay. And then that one sacrifices itself. It has to get rid of itself or whatever happens. And in this one, gosh. It happens in the first 10 minutes of the movie, but John gets killed. John dies. I think isn't there a movie, John Dies? Or John
dies
dead?
At the end.
Yeah, John dies at the end.
But he dies at the beginning here, huh?
Yeah, John dies at the beginning. That's the name of this movie. So yeah, they're hiding away in Mexico, and she's watching him in his adolescent age hit on this Mexican girl at a bar, which I'm sure he's not 21, but he's getting them some Shirley Temples, I suppose. And she's just watching him, and she doesn't notice this Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator just walking up in street clothes next to her and just starts shooting at him and kills him right in front of her. And then he just leaves. And so it's this Terminator that returns, this Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator that returns later on. And it's interesting because we grew to love him so much in the last time he was there, the last two times, because he was in 3 also. And in this one, we learn to appreciate him in a slightly different way because he's not the reprogrammed one that is there to care for him. How he claims it is that he's acquired a sort of robotic conscience by being alive for another 20 years and seeking out his own mission. Having completed his mission of killing John, he started just being human in a way, in his own way, and learning how to care for a family. So it's interesting what the take they did with him. So I'll give him that. I liked it, and like I said, that was probably the only aspect of it. Oh, the action was pretty good. It was pretty, like, how are they going to get away from the thingy now? Now they're in the air. Oh, how's the thingy going to catch up? Now they're driving really fast. How's the thingy going to catch up with them now? It's always the chase. We're chasing on the ground, chasing in the air. Now we're falling through the air. How's the thingy's going to chase it? So there's a lot of thingy chases where it's, it seemed to be a common thing, just like with the first and the second one. It's got the hook arm, and it's, just as the thing explodes, it jumps off the thing and it hooks on the thing. And it's like, oh no, it's hooking on the thing. And then they're like, oh, kick it off for the thing. And they throw stuff at the thing and they shoot it with the shotgun in the face. God, the shotgun in the face, it doesn't work. It hardly ever stops him. Or it stops him just in time to prevent something. But it's always the hooking on the thing. And that seemed to be you know what I'm talking about, right? Like he's chasing them and they're driving in some dumb thing. And tell me, how many gears does a vehicle have going in reverse?
In Terminator universe, it's probably like 6 gears.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because in normal universe, I believe there's only one, but people seem to be doing all these races in reverse, and you keeping ahead of the game the whole time. Like, get out of here. So anyway, she's always in front, and then the person is chasing the Terminator, and then, oh, that car explodes, and he jumps, and then he does the hooky thing, and then he's like, oh, he's hooked onto the thing, and whatever. Next thing, he's hooked onto a plane that they're after. It's like, get out of here. Why doesn't this Terminator have a gun? Like, it can shoot parts of its metal body. It's always resorting to this spear thing.
Well, they just come to Earth naked.
There's guns everywhere. What are you talking? He takes over the body of a cop at one point. I'm like, keep the gun. Can't you just absorb the bullets and just wait to throw it at him later or something? Like, do something else. Make a longer spear, like your arm. They're so stupid. But the thing is, like, so throughout the entire movie, and the way they make it seem is that every time the Terminator sees its mission, sees the target, it just goes, buck nutty, and it just like runs towards him and it's gotta kill him. Except in the end, when he starts negotiating, like, there's a scene where he just starts talking. I'm like, what? Why are you just go and attack it? And they're ready, they have like whatever, I suppose some kind of trap set up.
It's kind of like if Michael Myers just started talking it out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, Michael Myers always has the advantage of a surprise, right? The surprise attack. He would never just come out in front of you. But yeah, so he starts talking with Schwarzenegger, saying something like, "You're like me. Why don't we join forces?" Like, what do you care? Just go and get the target. Like, now all of a sudden you're so sentient and like whatever.
Yeah, now you need this old fucker to help you out.
Yeah, exactly. You don't actually. This guy can duplicate. So, this is when I came back home and talked to my wife about it, I realized, so I don't know if you saw the trailer, how like the skeletons seem to be coming out of the new Terminator. It's like they combined the liquid one and the skeleton frame one into one, so that he can actually split, and he gets like he gets a little buddy to like high five when they complete the mission. So he's like, he's every now and then he'll split, but his bone body, it doesn't have half of his head. I don't know if that was just an animation mistake or what, but it's always missing like the top half of his head. I don't know why. And then the other one is just the usual liquid thing. I'm like, did you really need an upgrade? Like, like the liquid guy needed help? Like, I don't even understand. But anyway, it's not Skynet anymore. These people are the Legion. these robots. So they succeeded in saving.
Oh, they rebranded.
Well, they succeeded. Sarah Connor and John succeeded in stopping Skynet, but the problem was that Legion ended up coming forth anyway. There's really nothing you can do to stop this, essentially. Like, this robot invasion is going to happen. Some idiot is going to kill us all. It comes from humans anyway.
Ah, that sounds like an amazing film.
We should see this series. I'm telling you, it'll be a fun watch to see them all and make fun of it. It'll be good. Something. I want to do a time travel one where we see them all and like we talk about it. It'll be funny.
Get real drunk and watch Terminator movies and try to make sense of it.
What else? So you have another one.
Yeah, and funny enough, another A24 film.
Yeah.
Another one directed by a woman, and I swear to God, that was not my intentions.
It's subconscious now.
I'm progressive as the next guy, but I don't discriminate. Like I said, I don't care.
Now you're discriminating against male directors.
Yeah, fucking guys. But this is High Life. It came out this year, starring Robert Pattinson.
Oh,
who I already have feelings for.
Man crush. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. I know why. Because I heard when I was doing the editing, you mentioned the Daniel Day-Lewis mustache look.
Oh yes.
Yeah. See.
But it's directed by Claire Denis, she's obviously French.
Obviously.
This is her first English language film. I do have to say I'm not familiar with other films, but from what I've read, she is, she does have a good following. Mm-hmm. But the film it's a sci-fi. Basically, it's a bunch of convicted criminals, murderers, who are sent on a mission in a spaceship to go to a black hole and try to figure out ways to harness its power. And there's also some kind of experimenting of trying to have a baby in space, seeing how the radiation of space can affect giving birth. This film, it's one of those films I'm not even sure how I feel about it. I'm going to have to watch it a second time.
But you're willing to.
Yeah, I'm willing to watch it a second time. It's very non-linear. You have like 3 distinct time periods. There's a lot of symbolism in the film. So it's definitely one of those films that if you liked it the first time, you probably want, or if you kind of liked it, you have to go back and watch it again. There's a lot of perversion going on. They have a little section of the ship, which is like their sex box where they can go and do their masturbation duties.
Oh, yeah. Like your favorite scene from Lighthouse.
Yeah. It also has Andre 3000 from Outkast, which was pretty cool to see him in a movie.
Oh, man.
Andre 3 Stacks, as we call him in the hood.
Oh, shoot. I don't know about these nicknames.
But it's just a very strange movie. And I'm definitely going to have to watch it again just to get a firm understanding of everything going on. But I would recommend taking a look at it. It has a very, very surreal ending to the film. But there's a lot of isolation, a lot of loneliness, which Robert Pattinson seems to be a fan of.
Oh, yeah. Twilight. Lighthouse. He just loves finding these lonely movies. All right, guys. That's our show for this week. We'll have a better show for you next week. Until then, good night.
And have a great time of day.
All right. Later.